Hi, everyone. Welcome back to First Ascent Podcast, a conversation about climbing. Before we jump into the episode, I just want to remind everybody that we have a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/firstascentpod, you can find a whole bunch of extra content. And for $5, $7, or $10 per month, you can support your favorite climbing podcast. I just want to note that we are transitioning also to YouTube now. Just like Dylan going electric, First Ascent is going to YouTube. Only the difference is that Dylan was groundbreaking and was forging a new path, and First Ascent Podcast is literally following the path of millions of other podcasts in transitioning over to YouTube. We're going to start with just like a placeholder page with subtitles because let me tell you, I am not camera ready. So we might transition to video, but at this point, you can find First Ascent Podcast, the audio on YouTube. So check us out over there. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform. We're going all over the place. We're going electric. We're dipping our toe in the water of this new to us, not new to anyone else, but new to us YouTube platform. Our guest today is Miguel Lopez. And if you've been climbing around Rumney lately, chances are you've run into Miguel at the crag. He's the really friendly guy who's so happy to talk about climbing. So because of that, I was excited to get him on the podcast and have him talk to a larger audience about all of his climbing ideas, of which there are many. And Miguel is very, very hot right now because he just sent Rocketman at Rumney, and the video of his send just posted on YouTube. It was a Frankie Lapatino video of Miguel sending Rocketman, and it's an awesome video. You got to go check it out. I'll link it in the show notes. And just a quick shout out, Jason Houston, a really good friend and friend of the pod, came up with a new slogan for the podcast. So it's First Ascent Podcast, conversations between a climbing legend and a weekly guest, which flattery will get you everywhere, Jason. So thank you so much. So here is the weekly guest, Miguel Lopez. Miguel Lopez, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you, Jay?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to get you on the podcast. I actually saw you at the crag yesterday.
I was at the crag yesterday. Unfortunately, I'm in dumpster diving mode. The purpose of dumpster diving is you kind of like see climbs that are 2 or less stars on Mountain Project, and you try to climb it.
Oh, so that's what you're doing, because you were referring to dumpster diving yesterday, and I was like, I don't know what he's talking about other than like getting bread out of a dumpster that is thrown away. But like, and I know you're a younger dude, so I'm like, maybe that's what he's doing. But no, okay. So where did this idea come from?
It initially started off with not wanting to wait in lines at Rumney. I initially would just start dumpster diving to avoid lines. But eventually I started like enjoying it because you eventually start finding like hidden gems. So you have to go into the dumpster a little bit to find some of these hidden gems and then really just like embrace the dumpster. But then you also have to balance it out and also have to get on like really good 4-star climbs as well. So then everything doesn't become like 4 stars in the dumpster.
Right. It's like the relative grading, right? You do it just a bunch of 2-star routes and then you've got like the 4-star of the 2 stars.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of star overgraders. And maybe, admittedly, I'm one of those. But I'm trying to get to an average level of stars.
There are a lot of star overgraders. Like, and chief among them was Lee. Lee was like a star overgrader, 100%. Like, just getting to the crag for him was 3 stars. Like everything was 3 stars starting.
I was looking at Lower Vader or Darth Vader Spaceballs, the traveling cup he had, and I'm like, this does not look like this is that many stars.
What did he give? Did he give it 4 stars?
No, he gave it, I think 2, max 3, but it's hard to call it 2 stars.
That's the route that you do when you've spent way too much time at Rumney and you've done all the like literally every 12 on the hillside.
Yeah, there's a lot of routes like that at Rumney, I'm afraid. A lot of also like contrived routes too.
So that's why you were climbing on the caged last night down at Lower Vader. That was one of your dumpster dive routes.
Correct, and it's actually I think it's undergraded on stars. So I don't want to spread the good word and get a line on it yet. But
well, okay, so here's the first hot take of many of this conversation. And the hot take is that the caged should be, according to Miguel, at least 4 stars.
At least 3 stars. I have a lot of wrong opinions on stars.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
But which I'll admittedly take to the chin and admit that I'm wrong. But I will stand by my opinions.
I'm pulling it up on Mountain Project to see it here. So the caged gets 2 stars on Mountain Project, and it's a Scott Stevenson route, and Scott's a friend of the pod from 1992. It's weird, right? Like it's weird.
It's weird. If I were to bring a boulder to Rumney and I wanted to find one route specifically for them to say like, oh, this is what most long Rumney routes are like, I would say this is it.
Okay, so this would be a boulder, like a long route for a boulderer. Is what you're saying?
Sort of, and it like really encapsulates like the funky nature of Rumney in it too, where you can burl it out, or you can find 3 other betas that you could swear by are all the best. So,
which is your beta? Did you find? Are you doing the burl beta? Or are you doing the crafty beta?
I'm doing the crafty beta, but unfortunately, the crafty beta still requires you to be sort of strong. So,
yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
The thing that I always tell people, like when they're like, "Oh, I'm super psyched on Lower Vader," I'm like, "You realize that just up the hill, there's another cliff." That's like way better.
At this point of the year, it's like actively seeping, and it's like, oh, it's in direct sun too. But I'm saving all of that for when I'm done dumpster diving. Right now, we're just we're having the flock of ravens down the dumpster.
Like buzzards, like picking on the carcass.
Yeah. That's probably how it ended up. It probably just like fell off of something else.
Well, so we sort of jumped right into discussing Lower Vader, which is not what I was expecting. But I met you when you were working on Butt Bongo at Waimea. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was you were working on your first 513.
Correct.
And you sent it, and like the video you posted of sending it was so cool. And I mean, it was very clear when I first met you that you were very close. You were about to send any day. And you were just so psyched. Like I'd never met you before. You were psyched. You were friendly. I'm like, this is a guy who really loves climbing at Rumney. And I want to talk to him on the pod.
Yeah. One correction is that it's technically Frankie's video. Frankie is really kind and sits on ropes and records a ton of his friends. And I truly appreciate when he does. But that was my first 13. I had tried one before down in Connecticut. I'm initially from Rhode Island, and I had moved up to New Hampshire roughly a year ago in like February. And before then, in the fall before, was working on Butt Bongo, and I ended up calling the season on Butt Bongo when it was like actively snowing on me as I was working it. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe the season might be over for this. So then the winter started rolling around, and last year we were getting like 50-degree days in February that were like sunny, and it was truly a treat. And I was like texting a ton of friends to end up getting out, and luckily I kept finding like stringing partners and getting out there, and it was always just like painfully so close. But I had some bad beta almost at the very outro move that eventually I cheated with more Rumney trickery than actually being strong. So
the bad beta on the like the lock off to the crimp, the kind of the red point crux up there.
Correct. Yeah, I used to dead point or try to dead point to it.
That's what I did. Like right foot on a terrible foothold and just like strong. Kind of That was like literally like 2005.
Oh,
So
okay.
we didn't have trickery back then.
Oh, understood. Well, that's all I got in these boats.
So what did you do there? Like what was the change?
I ended up kind of like high stepping and pushing down on the plate as well, and just abusing flexibility to really just reach up.
And was that the difference?
That was the difference for me. I mean, for some other people, they might not need to succumb to that low, but but I found out there's also even more trickery below that. Down on the jug that I would shake out on, over to the left, there's like a no hands rest that I never had the opportunity of because it was always like raining, soaking wet, or frozen over. So I was like, oh.
So you never used the no hands rest off to the left.
No, I didn't really know it existed. I should have had done more mountain project research, unfortunately.
I don't think I ever used that. I don't. The preponderance of rests at Rumney has definitely like increased. Like people finding rests, like the rest on Predator where you go all the way around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that kind of, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy, but like that doesn't seem right.
What
Did
about
you like go
the knee
off the
bars?
route to rest? The knee bars on Predator?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the heck? I mean, I love knee bars as much as the next guy, but like, I don't know. I never used them. But then I'm that guy.
Yeah, now
like,
you're
then
becoming
I'm
that guy.
I'm so that guy. Well, okay, so you moved up here like a year ago ish. You said, what brought you up to New Hampshire from Rhode Island?
So initially, I had applied to engineering positions up here, and I got an engineering position at this company up here in Hanover. But down in Rhode Island, I was working on this project where it was kind of like pretty big for me, and I kind of used it as like my ticket anywhere because it was like this research position on like thermonuclear rockets and looking at like fuel cells for those. So I continued to do my master's on it and made it into my thesis. But my friends ended up getting a job at SpaceX. So eventually I got like a little like egotistical, and I was like, oh, if he got into SpaceX, I could use this to get wherever I want. And then
Yeah.
I saw him ending up putting in like 60 hours a week at SpaceX, and I was like, oh, this is not how I want to live my early 20s. Like, I kind of want to like enjoy my early 20s. I remember pseudo punting off the top of Tsunami. And
Pseudo punting.
I
thought punting was a binary condition.
no, there's a pseudo punt. We could put a pin in this for later.
Okay, we'll come back to this. Okay, go ahead.
And I lowered down, and I was like, wow, this is such a great route. Like, I definitely want to be like up here in New Hampshire. And I kind of just shot fired, applied to a ton of places up here because that's how like the current job market is. And it kind of stuck. So I'm kind of up here.
What kind of engineering are you doing? Are you like literally a rocket scientist?
Unfortunately, it's kind of like no one ever self-describes himself as a rocket scientist, but a newspaper decides if you're like a scientist or a marine biologist almost. So I do work on like spaceflight hardware and things like that, and looking at fluid mechanics, and sometimes my company also does consultant work for other things like that. But my day by day, I would never call myself a rocket scientist.
I think if I were, I would.
I
would introduce, I'd make business cards saying that that's what I was.
My business card is like so bland. It just says Miguel Lopez, engineer, and the phone number in my company name. It doesn't even say what kind of engineering I do.
Well, it's good to be like general, I suppose.
Yeah.
You could do general engineering. Okay, so the pseudo punt. What is that?
So there's like two forms of a pseudo punt, where there's an easier crux up above that's almost a red point crux, and you've kind of pulled it, but you fall on the last move. And the main pseudo punt that I encounter is I like to really rapid fire go at Rumney pretty often because it's usually pretty short. So sometimes I can give like 4 to 6 red point burns on a project if like I'm in the late red point stage. And by go 5 or 6, you're really operating on a low gas tank. So if you get to the top and you pull the crux and you do punt off the top, it's kind of like, oh, well, it was a Hail Mary burn anyway, but you kind of did punt because you got that far.
Right. It's like it's changing the standard for the punt, right?
Mhm.
Like so you still punted, but like it was probably preordained on some level.
Yeah, but it's also like,
Yeah.
given that you got in that far, you should have done it.
Yeah. Still, you still fell when you probably shouldn't
Yeah.
have. 5 or 6 goes a day. Well, you're young, so you can do that.
I'm also ignorant too. Which I think it's
Well, those go together,
yeah.
Miguel. Oh wow! But then you went and sent Tsunami.
Correct. That was my first 12D.
Oh, nice. So, like, it seems like your pyramid is more like a vertical line because, like, just 10 minutes ago, you were doing your first 13A, and then just recently you sent Rocketman, which is 13D. So, like, did you just skip the middle, or did you have you just been climbing, crushing everything? What's been going on?
No, so this is the beauty of the dumpster dive, is every time you push a new grade, you jump back down.
Oh,
And I like to restart at like 12A. The 13CD, this is kind of controversial because you can take Rocket Boy and Rocket Man. So there is a spire at the very top, but I had also done Predator, and I had done like 3 13Bs in a pretty short span of time. So my
okay.
pyramid looks pretty well, and that's like the one thing I pride myself on in climbing is how well my pyramid sort of is. And
Okay.
for me, it's really hard to actually just like continually throw my head against like hard projects, just because I feel like the climbing mental fortitude isn't there for me. I feel like I can really easily decide like, oh, I'm not enough on this project, or I get too meek on a project and I'm like, oh, I need to like drop back down. So that's another beautiful reason why I like to drop down to like 12A.
Anybody who says that sport climbing isn't mental has never had a medium to long term project because it's so mental.
Yeah.
Like there are times when I'd rather be on like some slab run out on some giant granite face and like be afraid than like going on the 78th red point burn on the
Yeah.
thing that I'm trying to
Yeah.
send.
For me, it becomes extremely mental when it's like one move separating all of these links that you have, which is why like right now I'm like looking at some projects and looking at the menu at Rumney almost, and I'm like, oh, these all seem like they require like an insane level of mental fortitude. And right now, I'm still like, I view Big Kahuna as like my second longest ever project that I've had, and it was just separated by one move for so long, and it's just like, oh, this is frustrating. But now imagine doing this for like your limit project. It would just probably like be a huge mental hurdle, which eventually I do have to like overcome and face. But yeah.
I think Rumney's very unique in that regard, where in a lot of climbing areas, you're going to get like a lot of like moderately hard moves in a row that add up to a hard route. But Rumney is there's so many boulder problems hidden within routes, and some of these boulder problems are just so subtle and so powerful at the same time that you just have to hit it just right in order to send the whole climb. And it can be quite frustrating.
Mhm.
I'm talking specifically about Barracuda, of course. The route that I've fallen on the top of like 38 times in a row.
That one looks like it requires a lot of mental fortitude as well. And I've been debating on where that ranks on the priority of the menu as well. But you've been
Yeah. So
inspiring me
what
on
is
it. I'm like looking at, I'm like, wow, he's actually like really crushing this thing. Maybe I have a chance.
if Jay can do it, anyone can.
No, I've never said that.
So what's the menu? Like tell me about the menu. You've referred to this a few times. Like what are your sights set on?
They're set on like a huge range from like 12A to 13D, and some are like ambitious ones that are like not in my style. But I personally like writing it down more rather than like selecting to do on Mountain Project, just because then it can get like kind of lost because you're not like seeing it or whatever. But it also like helps you decide later when you're like, oh, I really don't know what else to do at Rumney. It's like, oh, let me refer to the menu on what I was once upon a time like psyched on, and let me
Oh,
like go see
interesting.
that.
The thing I don't like about the to-do list on Mountain Project is that it's public.
Yeah.
Like, people don't need to know. Like, I'm worried that I'm like, oh, to do, like Zulu at rifle, and people are looking at it being like, there's no way he's going to do that. Like, I don't want people judging my to-do list.
I have some 510 like multi-pitches on my to-do list at Mountain Project. And I'm like, oh, he should have done this by now. I'm like, well, yeah, but I just haven't gotten there.
I'm going to go look after we record, I'm going to go judge your to-do list.
Go for it. I'll expect an email later.
I have some thoughts and criticisms of your to-do list. I have some notes.
It's not ambitious enough.
Probably true, given your trajectory lately. So you've got 12A to 13D. Like, what's a 12A that you haven't done that's on your list?
Stone Temple Pilots.
That's a good one.
And that one's not a dumpster dive, which is great.
Yeah, kinda.
And Luau, Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Those are some on there.
Silver Surfer, like Luau is kind of your typical 12A at Rumney, but Silver Surfer is a 12A for 513 climbers. And it's like,
I've noticed that theme.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. But like your friend who's like breaking into 12A or whatever is going to hate it.
That's how I feel about Gold Member right now. It's a 12C, but for like people who already have climbed 13 plus.
That's very un-Rumney, Gold Member. It's just like straight down crimp pulling, I remember.
Yeah.
Felt like Red Rocks to me.
But not as soft.
Not as soft. It'd be 13B at Red Rocks for sure.
There's no trickery in it at all. Like, I can't just like find a knee bar midway through or anything like that. It's just like you have to just crimp pull, and there's almost 2 dead points back to back, where it's also like a hilarious handbag if you're really short. So it's pretty unfortunate. And then the top is wet most of the time as I've been working it. So I've been trying to do the mantle wet because I've been headstrong on it and making it a more mental drawn out battle.
Doing the wet mantle just because you're like too focused on sending it.
Yeah, I've gotten to this point where before my climbing style used to kind of be like, oh, I'm like either climbing perfectly or doing very well, or I'm kind of just off. And recently I've like kind of found like the switch for me to like almost start, I call it hate bouldering, kind of like how some people can like hate watch shows or hate run on Strava and like perform their best. If I botch a sequence, I'll just like hate boulder until I get to the next rest. And then I'll use that as like a pseudo recovery point. But on Gold Member, it's just hate bouldering the moment I leave the first anchors.
What does this look like? Are you like yelling on the moves? Are you like swearing? Like how hateful is this?
It kind of just looks like a normal tryhard to most people. But for me, it's like really hard to tap into like normal tryhard. So there's a lot of like deep groans and just like insane like grunts coming from like my stomach, just like trying hard. So.
And that's interesting that you view that as like accessing the dark side or something where you're
yeah.
Is there a love bouldering? Like what's the opposite of that?
I mean, on Rocketman, when you're in the dihedral, like I feel like sometimes if you breathe the wrong way or your hips are the wrong way, you're just off. So you're always having to like romance the dihedral and have your hips really close.
Wow, I never thought of it that way, and I'm not sure I want to necessarily. Both of these are making me uncomfortable, Miguel. The try-hard it's hard to access for me. Like, I was on Riviera last night, and like that was absolutely a scenario where I had to access the try-hard, and I'm just like, I'm trying to get to it. I'm trying to like get in a position where I'm just like willing to like pull really hard, like lift the car off the baby, like that kind of strength. And like, I just, it's hard to access.
Yeah, unfortunately, the harder you climb, the harder it is to try harder too.
That's a good point. What did you do for a sport prior to climbing?
I actually used to play soccer and volleyball. Growing up, my mom had like really instilled to me that like, oh, if you really like a sport, you'll always do conditioning on the side of it. So, she would always like wake me up pretty early and get me to like run a mile at like 7 in the
Really?
morning, just before training for soccer practice or stuff like that. And when I had started climbing, I was kind of doing the same thing. I was like, all right, well, I'll just do some extra like fitness laps or whatever. And that's like really beneficial for sport climbing. And at first it worked really well for Rumney, but now everything's just almost like multi-pitch bouldering. So
Do you do training outside of climbing? Do you like do board climbing and like actual training?
I do. A lot of my training is like power endurance focused, just because that's like my more natural affinity. I feel like I very often hit a finger strength cutoff on like
Mm.
certain climbs, but I can like tap into power endurance or just like working contrived rest a lot better. So I'll try to kilter board pretty often. My moonboarding has plateaued very hard.
It's easy for that to happen on the moon board, especially.
And for not a lot of time of like fingerboarding, I fingerboard like maybe once or twice a week in the off season. And I also train flexibility as I'm like resting in between the fingerboarding. And I feel like those go hand in hand and actually really help.
Sure. Yeah, the flexibility work is something that's so easy to overlook, and
Mhm.
then you realize you need it and you don't have it.
Yeah, and it actually takes just as long to build as like max strength.
So, do you feel like your background in soccer and volleyball like informs the way you climb?
Absolutely not, probably. um,
Completely different.
yeah, completely different.
What a
But
what a terrible question, Jay.
but
Like,
no, I think it might just stem more from my training mindset built from those sports, maybe, if that's what you meant by your question. And
yeah,
honestly, it is kind of just like being psyched for it. It's like, oh, like, all right, I really want to be good at this, so I'm gonna like invest extra time outside of what I do to try to not punt.
yeah, that makes sense. I think for me specifically, like I have a distance running background, so I'm really good at like trying at 75 or 80%, like
Mm,
because that's what distance running is. Like I was never a sprinter, like you never go all out. You're always holding a little bit back.
mhm.
And then eventually the tank just depletes from the 70% or 80% exertion level.
Yep.
But like on something like Riviera, for example, you're not going to do anything at 70%.
Yeah, that's like if you were to compare it. Recently, me and my friends have been comparing like certain climbs to what meter run it would be, and that's
Yeah.
like a 100-meter dash right there.
I was thinking more like an indoor 50-meter dash.
Oh,
Like,
an indoor 50-meter dash.
well, because when the indoor meets, like the distances it's hard to do a 100-meter dash
Mhm.
indoor because you'd have to do a turn. So like the 50-meter is the straightaway. So like indoors you'd do 50. So like, yeah, 100 would be generous.
What would be your 100-meter dash at Rumney?
My 100-meter dash, like one that I've completed or one that I like think is a perfect 100-meter.
Both.
I think, gosh, that's a good question. I would say parallel, but like that's more a 400. I think parallel is more a 400. So 100. Dodge, maybe.
Dodge.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think Dodge would be a 100-meter
It's a
dash.
scary 100-meter
Neither of which
dash.
I've completed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is more conducive to like wrestling. Dodge feels like wrestling, like you're wrestling somebody.
Yep.
But like running, I would say choral, but that's also like wrestling.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a hard comparison because it starts to break down the more you think about it.
Yeah, I understand that.
What about Rumney like keeps you coming back? And I'm extrapolating a little bit here from what you said, but like you've decided to sort of organize your life around climbing at Rumney. Like you came up here to get a job. I'm assuming like because of Rumney specifically or New Hampshire generally.
I would also say that the offer I got was like pretty good. Like it's an offer like worth moving to New York for, I would say.
It's an offer you couldn't refuse, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was like pretty good offer as well. It's not like I took a major pay cut to like come up here, but it was like a major like decision point as well. And it's like, oh, like this is like something that I really like to enjoy in my life, and the community is really great. In Rhode Island, the climbing gyms I climbed at were really well and like closely well knit to like really teach you like, oh, like this is how you want to interact with the outdoors, and like this is how you want to respect the areas. But in Rhode Island, there's almost like a flip. If you go out to Lincoln Woods, it's like completely different than what people say to do in the gym. It's like, oh, like there's music playing at the crags. There's literally spray paint on the rocks. Or I had even a sport climbed at Quincy Quarries a few times. And like, this is like just completely different.
I mean, you're literally climbing on graffiti. Yeah. Like you're climbing on paint.
It makes your footwork very good though.
It's as urban can be for sure.
But just something about like being in a closely tight-knit community like Rumney as well, where like you're flailing on a project and then you have so many people who are like, oh, hey, do you want spray? And you're like, yes, I absolutely love spray. Like, I'll take it.
It's nice that they ask.
Yeah, sometimes. It's just so nice to be in that community where like you have so many friends who also respect the space that you're in. And we're all like inevitably playing our individual role in stewardship, even if it's not like official stewardship.
Absolutely. I don't know. I got a piece of that yesterday because I generally avoid Rumney on the weekends. And this weekend is really rainy and kind of garbage. So I think a lot of people who would normally climb on the weekend like took Friday off. So I got a little bit of the weekend scene yesterday at Waimea, and it's different than I remember, but like not in a bad way. It's different like in a almost more supportive way. I don't know. Like
there's
maybe
less try hard now.
There's less try hard. No, maybe I'm different, but like back when I started, where some of the original developers were still climbing there and everything, there was a little bit of an attitude, I think, at Waimea. And I didn't feel that so much yesterday. And there were like a lot of people there.
I think if you saw it some other weekends, you'd be like, whoa, this is a zoo. Yesterday it was like, oh, there's like nobody here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I counted 10 people at Waimea yesterday.
Maybe I overlapped at wrong times, but
but everybody was supportive, which was nice. Mm-hmm. Like everybody was positive and happy and supportive. Like I don't remember that always being the case back in the day.
Yeah, I feel like as of late, a lot of people have had this, I hate to call it fear or thought of Waimea of like, oh, it's a broy nature being up there and everyone's just like a super hard climber. And it's like, no, we're actually all kind of like chuffers up here. And everyone's like super nice. And it's like, sometimes I find at Rumney, it's actually like the harder people climb, the nicer they kind of are.
Yeah, because they're like not trying to get in or trying to project anything. I think that's like, I don't know. When I was talking to Andy Salo on the pod, we were talking about how like back in the 90s, like a lot of the developers and the main climbers were like so filled with angst. That was their thing. They were super angsty, like listening to like angry punk. And although now that I think about it, maybe your like hate bouldering is a little angsty, but like,
yeah.
But I don't notice the angst. It's like the newer generation is just like positive. It's really weird.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not all fighting for like first ascents, and I think maybe you have to be like a little angsty to brush off all this liking up of routes, which I truly appreciate. True. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm on routes and I'm like, whoa, this is like really visionary to be done in like the 2000s. Like, this is super impressive.
Yeah, is there anything about the Rumney climbing itself that really inspires you? Like, why do you keep coming back to the Rumney rock?
I think it's just so feature oriented as well. Like, you're rare to be on a Rumney route where it's actually just not around a feature, or I mean, just not only climbing like directly slab or pocket pulling or anything like that. It's like, oh, you have to learn how to climb in this 3D way around this thing.
Yeah, Rumney climbs features. Like it doesn't just climb walls.
Yeah,
you're linking these giant like corners and inside corners, outside corners, underclings, slopes. Like, yeah, that's what's so cool about Rumney. I feel like it probably makes you stronger, but it definitely makes you better. That's one thing that like I've encouraged others to get on Butt Bongo as their first 13 because like you can progress by getting better, not by getting stronger. And I think
Correct.
like your example of what you did at that upper Red Point crux, like you got better there. You maybe didn't get stronger, but you like learned a thing about climbing that then you applied and then you sent.
Yeah, I tell people like, oh, this route favors technique instead of saying like, oh, you just need to be stronger on it.
Yeah, that's good.
Not to say that there's no technique in like the parallel pocket catch, but getting more technique isn't going to make you catch like that first pocket on parallel. It's like, oh,
No.
there is a figure strength cutoff here. Like,
Yeah.
but on Butt Bongo, like there's a lot of technique that you can unlock and put in and then open up that whole route. That's one of those routes that's like, oh wow, this is like really visionary. Like I don't know how the first Ascent did it, but like there's so many options here. And I remember I was watching a this old Team Tough video.
Just the one like, with like the hardcore like metal music.
Yeah. And I just watched him palming the outside of the arete as like a sloper, not even grabbing the edge. And I was like, whoa, this is
really?
Yeah. It's like, whoa, this is epic. But we're not climbing the same route here. Like
those guys were so dialed in back then. They were so like, and they were operating in their own bubble too, on some level, where like Barracuda being the first 13D in New England, like the reason it's maintaining its 13D rating, I think, is just because like the historic nature of it being the first 13D. But like if you walked up to it and were like, what is Barracuda? Like, I think you could poll people and like a non-insignificant number of people would call it 14A. There you go.
I agree. I've heard a lot of this being said.
But they were like operating in their own sort of bubble. Like they were just climbing at Rumney, just climbing at Waimea. They like had broken free from the more trad granite style that is predominant in other parts of the state, which I won't mention. And like they're just doing their own thing and sort of learning how to climb on this rock. And they just got so strong. Like Ward Smith's like core strength, I would like put against any sort of like human being.
Yeah.
Like his core strength was incredible. The way that he started Parallel Universe, where he didn't use the stones, you know, the cheater stones, and like
stepping
started
stones
from the slab. Yeah, stepping stones. Sorry, like I don't want to imply cheating.
No cheating here. We just take bigger stepping stones. But yeah, there's a lot of things where I'm like, whoa, Ward Smith did this, and this is like so visionary, so impressive. And the more like Ward Smith routes I do, the more I become like a Ward Smith fan. And like a lot of people like get mad at like Ward Smith routes because they're climbing like some of these like 5.9s at Farlier or whatever, and they're like, why is this bolted like this? Why is it so bad? And at first maybe I was a part of that club, but then eventually I'm like, whoa, these are like really good visionary routes.
And it's like almost every route where you're like, why can't I do this move? It's like, because you have to do like a million more sit-ups. Like, yeah. The issue is lack of core, like always on a Ward route. And like the movement is incredible, which is maybe a good segue now that we're talking about like parallel. Like we were talking about this yesterday. I think the cliff is tilting.
I heard this rumor, and every time I see Jay at the crag, I act kind of like a 7-year-old with like a ton of questions in the back of the car. And I asked Jay like a million questions about like what goes on or like past days. And I was like, and was the parallel?
The kind of disturbing thing is like, it's the best part of my day. At the crag.
Oh man, being on Barracuda, doing the Barracuda crux again, is it like...
No, like,
okay.
Oh, Miguel's here. He's going to have questions that I can try to answer. This is amazing.
Yeah, so I had asked, I had a rumor that Monsters was potentially sinking. And I wanted to ask you before I went down the rabbit hole of looking at photos and trying to find where these photos were taken and trying to like take pictures and draw the lines, draw the vectors, see what's going on.
This is just anecdotal, 100%. But I have a video of me doing the parallel start back in the day, probably 2006, 2007. And I'm standing on, I won't say cheater, I'm standing on the stepping stones that are like pretty typical at the base. And the first holds are like up over my head. And then I got on it this last winter, same stones, although that is a variable that could have changed. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But same-ish stones. And those holds are not above my head anymore. They're like forehead height. And like, I haven't grown. I haven't gotten taller. So like, if those stones are the same, then the cliff is sinking. Right?
You sure you didn't have a growth spurt in like the last year?
I'm positive. I've been this height since 7th grade. That is a constant.
Like the only variable is the stepping stone. But then this is why I think like, oh, if we get more reports of this, then maybe it is worth looking back at old photos and seeing like what's changed. Because that under feature of monsters, it almost looks like it's not attached or anything. And there's a lot of freeze thaw that does happen there. So like the thought has really like been in my mind and the gears have been turning, but
this is also convenient for me. Like let's put all the cards on the table here. This is convenient for me for when I get on it now and I'm like, it's steeper than it used to be, because like this is justification for not being able to do the moves that I used to be able to do. So there's that. I have a dog in this fight. Like I
but now
it validates me on some level. Just to be clear.
Now we can all upgrade it because we can't hit the move, right?
Yeah.
Or what if it eventually gets so steep that you can start in the pocket?
That would be nice.
But
I don't think
really
it'd be 14A anymore. Although it would be steeper.
Yep.
I mean, somebody at the crag brought up Surf Safari, which was the super classic 13D, 14A out by San Francisco, right? Like,
correct.
That was a big spire sticking out on a hillside, which got a lot steeper and then toppled into the sea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I mean, I have a friend from back home who said a rock's job is to fall down and become dirt. Like, that's just sort of the order of things, right?
Yep.
The geological order. So like this, it's not out of the question that the rocks are moving, right? Like they do move. Wouldn't call it dangerous or anything, but like it could have moved.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's like it inevitably will move, and it's just how much has it moved within this small time frame. Is it enough for us to complain and say the grade's harder for our own arbitrary points? Maybe. But I mean, it's always nice to see like geologic things happen in like a human timescale.
Yeah, the geologic time is now, right? Like that's.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, what's behind monsters? Like, how is it attached to the hillside? Like, how is it attached to the matrix? Because all we see is the slab and then the rock jutting out over the slab. So like, I don't know.
Yeah. And this all kind of, we can all get into like some head theories about like, how is this attached, or like, where's the water coming from? But monsters would be my vote for like, if I were to be super psyched on a project, you know how boulders tarp over like a boulder for a snowstorm? I think
Totally.
monsters would be the one possible crag where you could really like tarp it over.
I think people have done that. Like, I
Really?
think that's a thing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought I had an original idea. People have done that.
You're part of a long lineage of people desperately trying to climb dry rock in New Hampshire.
That's how I feel like when I'm on techno. It's like, oh, this isn't like my own success. This is like passed down code into me just to move through this in the perfect sequence possible. And that's how I feel generally at Rumney. It's like, this isn't my own success. Like a lot of this is like permutations of like how people have climbed this and like have given me the literal keys to success, and it happens to work with like my body.
That's so true. That's like I mean, climbing beta, and especially beta at Rumney, is like, it's like lore. It's like
Yeah.
lore passed down from generation to generation. It's like Beowulf, right? Like
Yeah.
it was told around campfires, and then somebody decided to write it down.
Yeah. That's why when you see somebody deviate from the lore, you kind of wince a little bit. You see somebody doing some bad beta on Techno, and you're like, ugh.
Stop, come down. Just
Yeah.
get off the route. Like
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Well, the beta on Big Kahuna, the gas pedal beta, I'm not sure
Mhm.
if you use that beta for it. I've been credited with that beta.
Oh,
Like
wow.
they're like Jay's gas pedal beta. And that's not true. I got the beta from Ward. I was hanging on it and
Whoa.
Ward was walking by and I was like, "Hey Ward, like what do you do here?" And he's like, "How tall are you?" I'm like 5'10". And he's like, "Oh, if you're 5'10, you can use the gas pedal." So like gave me the gas pedal beta, did the move right away. And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." So I was like referring to the gas pedal beta, and then like, other people are referring to it, and it all just sort of like Ward didn't do the FA, I think Sprague did, but like it's like this thing that lives on through the
Mhm.
telling, which is so cool.
Yeah, I'm an apostle of the gas pedal beta, and I've been like, every time I would read about Project Thing, I'm like, how much more precise do I need to be for this beta? Like, and I knew it came from you, but I was like, what the heck? Like, this is so precise. And the other beta going out the other way is like so much worse for my body type.
Oh, so much worse, like staying online, like not getting to the left of the bolt, like just staying like posted up on the holds.
I think the setup is harder for me, or maybe I just like to complain about betas that aren't intuitive or suit my body type. But I think Big Kahuna might be the one shout where there's like 3 separate betas that I know of. And I think there's also a left heel hook beta now too.
Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, this newfangled beta.
And it works really well. I wish I was able to do it. The people left heel hook, like the
Really?
far out left, almost Spock crimp. It's like a broken crimp, and you can like kind of Spock it almost.
Yeah. They heel hook that?
I think so.
So what are your goals at Rumney? Like I know you talked about dumpster diving, but like
Mhm.
if you could do one route this spring, what would it be?
I kind of like struggle with like route goals, just because like if I've never been on it, it's hard to really say like, oh, this route suits me, or I really like this route. But I do like setting like pyramid goals, or like, oh, I would like to do X many of this grade. So maybe just like some more 13Bs would be really nice this spring. But I mean, you can never set too lofty goals not knowing what the weather's going to be.
So I'm like, what route do you want to do? And you're like, I would so much rather do like a lot of that grade.
Yeah, that's kind of my answer, I think. It's just more fun to climb almost like laterally than to just try like vertically. Like you can even see it with like the pros. Like they're not looking for the next 9C plus or whatever. They're just like having more fun doing 9Bs, or 9B pluses are also kind of a miss sometimes. And they're doing a lot of 9As, FAing a lot of these, and it's just, you could see it's just more fun to not always be at your mental limit of like headbanging up against this route, but to also just climb widely and like build your skills in a way that you know you can do it and also gain enough from it.
That's a really good point, and that's a really healthy way of looking at it rather than, yeah, you put all your eggs in one basket and you're like, could work out. There could be like the Disney Hollywood ending where you send the route right as the weather's changing and like or you have to leave or whatever. But like when does that ever happen? Like there's a reason that's fantasy, right?
Mhm. Yeah. There are selected few climbers who have, we call it this like clutch factor at Rumney, where
The clutch gene.
yeah, the clutch gene. I'm currently trying to like sequence the genome for myself because sometimes I feel like I miss the clutch gene.
In your free time, you're just like sequencing like the
Yeah.
DNA
Yeah.
of the clutch gene. You don't feel like you have that?
It comes and goes. It comes and goes. I don't feel like I have the clutch gene just because of my method is sometimes more just like 4 or like to like 6 red point goes in a day, where it's like, no, you're not clutching this. You're just throwing your body up against the route.
You're not using the like to mix metaphors. You're not using the clutch at all. You're just like jamming the gears back and forth.
Yeah, literally.
Do you boulder much?
I don't boulder. Funnily enough, a lot of people laugh when I say this, but my hardest boulder is actually like V4 outside.
Really?
Yeah. I had, in theory, done this one V6, but it was at Lincoln Woods. And then I looked down later, and because the area is so contrived, apparently if you put like a left heel hook on, it becomes V4 again. So it's kind of like,
oh, geez.
It's kind of viewed as like this V4 curse I have, where I can climb probably really hard boulders on a rope, but on a boulder, I'm just limited to V4.
Yeah, you've done double that on a rope, I'd assume.
Maybe the Thin Man crux for me, or the Thin Man boulder, is like V6/7. I think maybe V7 is probably like the hardest thing I've done.
The Rocketman crux is probably V7, V8.
Which it's funny because it's so sustained. You can either call it 5 cruxes or just sustained climbing. So what are you referring to as the Rocketman crux?
Probably where you use the thumbs and where I move right to the arete and do the lunge.
For me, the jump is actually like the most secure part.
Really?
I think the red point crux after might be like a hard 7 for me. But again, my boulder grading is just all wrong. So when I talk to my friends about boulder gradings, these are like one of those things that fall under wrong opinions that Miguel has that I just take to the chin. But my boulder grades are all just all over the place.
Wow. Okay. So you don't boulder. Do you do any trad climbing, or have you trad climbed before?
I've done 2 trad climbs. They were both 5/6s, and I placed across those 2 trad climbs 3 pieces of gear in Connecticut. And
whoa,
it's just,
were they really short, or are you just really bold? You're just a really bold trad climber.
Unfortunately, I'm very meek. So I like to top rope tough guy a lot of my sport routes. But on trad, it's like, oh, I don't want to place too low because I'll just deck. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm 15 feet up and the anchors are another 15 feet. Let me just run this out and get to the anchors very fast. So eventually, like I do plan on spending more time trad climbing, but I view it more as like adventure climbing. And there's a lot of things at Cathedral that I look at and that are sort of on the menu, but unfortunately they're kind of like mythical routes because like they're always wet or things are going on. But I've been kind of psyched on Heather and Women in Love. They both look like really good routes, and I feel like the Prow is just too mythical of a route for me because it's just constantly wet, and I've seen friends just like try to string partners for that and how woeful that is. But I feel like it's kind of a rare thing for people to say like they've truly sent the Prow.
It's so like just, I don't know, inconsistent in terms of being dry. Like I don't know if I've ever been on it when it's been completely dry. Like there's always like some seep or one of the cruxes is wet or whatever. Like I'm not psyched. And like, yeah, it's a tough one. Like logistically, it's tough to send, clean the whole thing. But like, there's so many good things to do. But like, even just at Rumney, like there are some trad routes at Rumney that are worthy too.
That's true. I've been thinking about some of the trad routes at Bonsai, and I've been thinking about like pinpointing them maybe, but I think that I have to get a lot more bored to really want to like go into that.
That's like a level below dumpster diving.
I think it might be 2 levels below. I think 1 level below dumpster diving, there's the made up routes at Rumney, like super suburban and super urban. I think those, I hate to call them fake routes, but those are...
No, they're fake routes. You're right.
Those are below dumpster diving.
Well, Miguel, so like my last question is always, are you gates in or gates out?
I'm gates in.
Nice. Welcome to the gates in tribe.
It's nice to be on the winning side, you know. Um, I just I don't get, this is going to sound like very silly, but I don't get how for sport climbing you'd want to do gates out. I understand for trad climbing, like gates out, you're more secure. It makes a lot more sense. I understand like flipping back and forth, but sport climbing gates in is just, I feel like so fluid for me. And I mean, Andra is pro gates in. So
Is Andra gates in?
Andra is gates in.
Really? See that this is new information for me, which I will use a lot.
It's nice.
Well, Miguel, thank you so much for stopping by. I wish you all the best of luck on whatever routes you plan to climb on, be they 1-star dumpster dives or 4-star classics. And good luck on Gold Member. Like, I know you'll send that one day.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of First Ascent Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review us on your podcast platform. This is what keeps us going. And if you want more content, we have a Patreon page. You can search First Ascent Pod on Patreon. And finally, you can follow us on Instagram at First Ascent Pod or my personal Instagram at JAYKNOWER. Thanks so much and keep sending.